when a player was left to die by fellow PCs. Hi everyone, All Things D&D is back with another story. I think there are a few phrases that can be said in Dungeons & Dragons that will universally get a reaction. I cast Fireball. Are any of the barmaids hot? And the dreaded, it's what my character would do. These two stories perfectly encapsulate that most miserable phrase. Share your it's what my character would do stories after listening to these two. This happened the first session of a game I started. The game itself was Forced in Destiny, the FFRPG Star Wars game that focuses on Force-sensitive characters and how they can grow and develop in the shadow of the Galactic Empire, typically between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi time-wise. My game was set shortly before the Battle of Yavin, first Death Star being destroyed. Character creation was pretty open-ended. The only guideline was that they would be starting out as prisoners in an Imperial work camp, so they needed to come up with a backstory that would explain why they would be prisoners. They said they could work with that. All except one, my Todd. Todd didn't like the idea of having to be a slave, nor did he like the idea of being a prisoner of war. He came up with the idea of being a guard, part of the Imperial Army, tasked with watching over the camp. I asked him how a Force-sensitive would have been able to reach any position of importance in the Empire, and he just hand-waved it by saying that Finn in the new trilogy was Force-sensitive and nobody noticed. I accepted that, but told him he would likely not know he was Force-sensitive until things started happening in the game. He was okay with that. I assumed he would be willing to work with the rest of the party once they all got together. Todd did not do that. Right out of the gate, right after I get done explaining the frigid, icy region of the planet they inhabit, he starts behaving like Clancy Brown from the Shawshank Redemption. He stomps his way through the main mining floor, picks out an NPC prisoner that didn't get out of his way fast enough, harasses them violently, and rips the heat pack from his suit. All the guards and prisoners wear thermal suits powered by these charged heat packs. Without them, they'll freeze, and the only way for prisoners to get more is to be productive. So in essence, the first thing Todd did was sentence a random NPC to a slow, miserable death. When I tell the other PCs where they are in the mine and give them their current scenario, they begin talking in character. After a minute, in comes Todd, blustering about get back to work, and who's talking, and gives one of them a wallop with his truncheon. One of the other PCs considers braining him with a pickaxe, but he's a good player, so he doesn't start killing other players in the first session of the game. The prisoner PCs continue digging, overseen by Todd, and find their group resource, an old Jedi holocron, read plot coupon, that activates and does some psychic nonsense that shows them a path through the stars, while also informing them of their sensitivity to the Force, and this connection they all share. They start having a conversation about it, realizing they might have a legitimate destiny ahead of them. One of the cooler-headed characters recommended sleeping on it, and since it was nearing the end of the shift, they decided to sleep on it. All except Todd. Todd immediately decides to go to his superior and report that one of the prisoners found a piece of contraband in the ice and refused to turn it into him. I stared at him baffled and asked him why he was selling out the other PCs. He does the classic move and says, it's what my character would do. Smash cut to a late-night raid of the prisoners' quarters. Guards burst in, rouse everyone up, start tossing beds, and get everyone lined up against a wall. The PCs get singled out due to Todd's tip and start getting escorted out to be executed. One of them makes a move, a brief fight ensues, and they manage to take down the pair of guards taking them out. One of them is able to use his powers to disable the personnel lock on the guards' weapons, so now they're armed. They rush back in, take out the other guards raiding the quarters, and arm a few more NPCs for an impromptu uprising. And where was Todd during this time? Well away from all the action. He seemed content to wait in the guardhouse with his sergeant while the raid went down. It was only when the player-led uprising reached the guardhouse did he start to act. His actions were mostly hiding and ordering the surrender of NPC prisoners. To his credit, he didn't attack his fellow players, so I'll give the guy that. With the players doing a lot of the legwork and rolling well, the guards are going down left and right, the prisoners rolling over them. The prison players push to the landing pad on top of the guardhouse with the intention of stealing a vessel to escape in. As they're making ready to take off, Todd says, "All right, I guess if you guys are going to hijack the plot, I'll get on the ship." I'm confused for a second. Before one of the other players responds, I get in the way and block his path from getting on the ship. I tell Todd what he's seeing, and Todd looks surprised. "What are you doing? Aren't we getting out of here?" "Yeah, we're getting out of here. You can stay." Todd jumped to his feet. "What? Why?" "Why wouldn't we? You're not one of us. You beat the crap out of us, killed a guy for getting in your way, and sent a raid to execute us. You're not a companion of ours, you're just some asshole." Todd glared and said the phrase that never helps. "I'm just playing my character." The rest of the players shrugged. So are we. Todd makes a few more protests. He mentions the destiny the holocron laid out for them, but they're not having a word of it. When the door to the craft is closing, he makes one last push to force his way in, which does not go well, and the ship goes flying off to warmer climes. Todd puts on a salty look and says to me, "Well, I guess I'll just have to hunt them down once I'm out of here." I nodded at him. "I suppose that's possible. What are you going to do about the riot, though?" "What riot?" He'd forgotten about the prison riot destroying the facility. He tried to sneak downstairs but had no ranks in that skill. He got noticed in short order, engaged in a combat with the prisoners, and got the tar kicked out of him. The scene ended with them hurling him from the roof of the tower to his death, and that's pretty much where Session 1 ended. It was a few more sessions before Todd was willing to remake, and I was kind enough to let him come in at the same XP as the rest of the party. The rest of the game, he was fine, but I'll always be a little baffled by his decision to play a cruel prison guard and expect his victims to be hunky-dory with him. What's that? Consequences? You get what you deserve. And speaking of getting what you deserve, this next story is full of justified consequences. My husband has 3 brothers, and the youngest claims to be an expert in all things TTRPG. Spoiler alert, he's not. I've killed him accidentally while GMing so often because he makes stupid choices. I'm going to tell you about his 3 most epically stupid character deaths. Death 1, the Rogue. The party was level 10 and learned that an ancient magma dragon had the information they needed to defeat the BBEG. So they approached the dragon very, very respectfully because this is a CR-17 creature and could stomp them hard. The cleric is negotiating with the dragon and making great progress. Until my brother-in-law gets bored. He looks around and realizes that there's magic treasure in this ancient dragon's cave. He looks right at me and says, "I stealth and steal the sword there." You mean the sword glowing with magic and only 20 feet from the dragon? Okay, I think that's a really, really bad idea, and I would highly recommend not doing it. Okay, awesome roll there. Unfortunately for you, the dragon's bonus to perception is higher than your roll with bonuses. He sees you stealing the sword. What's your AC? Yeah, he hits and kills you. This is a CN creature. You tried stealing from it. What did you expect the reaction to be? Needless to say, he was very unhappy, but he made another character and we moved on. Death 2, the Fighter. His next character was a noble but simple fighter. High strength, loads of HP, and dumb like a brick, but he listened to the other characters, so we're good. The party's in a dungeon and they're utterly convinced there's a trap somewhere along the hall. Fair enough, there's lots of corpses and they look like they died via magic. They're hesitating and trying to come up with a way to trigger the obvious trap without getting caught in it. After all, the party rogue is now Dragon Chow. My wonderful brother-in-law looks at his sheet and declares that he's going to walk down the hall, and the cleric can just heal him after he takes the damage. I warn him that some of the corpses have armor and weapons better than his, and he can infer they were a higher level than him. I caution him to wait, since the wizard and cleric are getting close to figuring the puzzle out. Nope, I don't want to wait for a stupid puzzle. I set my shield down and walk down the hall. I stomp on each tile to make sure I trigger the trap, while running my hands along the wall. No avoiding him triggering the trap then by some fudged rolls. Awesome. You triggered all 3 traps at once, as was designed to happen. Congrats, you're dead. Again. Why don't we rewind and let the rest of the party finish the puzzle? Nope, he decides to storm off and come back the next week with his final character. Death 3, the Ranger. This was his last character. I got sick of his passive-aggressive comments, his bullying other characters to do what he wanted, and kicked him from the group. The third and final character was a Ranger. It was a simple longbow build and pretty solid. The party's chasing the final villain through the capital, gearing up for the final showdown. They run across a few of his minions that I threw in for laughs. I made gnome barbarians. It was a joke and I assumed that my players would keep running across the rooftops to chase the villain. There was no way for the gnomes to get onto the rooftop, so it was just played for laughs. The party keeps running, but my brother-in-law stops. He stops without telling the rest of the party. He split off all by himself and didn't even tell the party where he was going. He climbs down and faces off against the gnome barbarians. He could have shot at them from the safety of the roof, but nope, he decided to melee them. The Ranger, who specialized in range attacks, decided to use his dagger to melee 2 barbarians. 2 barbarians who are, yes, gnomes, but high enough level that it would be a challenge for the entire party. And he's trying to solo them. Yet again, let's retcon this and rewind. Why don't you tell the party so they can help you? Or not climb down and try to shoot them? Nope, you insist that this course of action is the best because it's what your character would do? Fine. Let's roll combat. Hey look, you died again. He threw a complete tantrum. He threw books on the floor, ripped up his character sheet, and was escorted out of the apartment by my husband. My brother-in-law was 27 at the time. Dang, can you believe that within this team-based group play organized game, with books and rules and guides, that you can't just do whatever you want and expect things to go your way, because it's what your character would do? Group first, you second. Please let us know what you think and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, All Things D&D. Our videos are posted every Tuesday and Friday, so stay tuned for more amazing Dungeons & Dragons content.